Hey guys, and how are you doing? It's Will here, and we're gonna be talking about some Destiny. We're gonna be talking about some Destiny here, right? Earlier on in the week, Bungie came out and did a showcase conference, press conference, whatever you want to call it, about Destiny 2. And I'm pissed. I'm pissed off. That's long and short of it. I'm not a Destiny player. I don't play Destiny 2. I used to on launch. I beat the raid with friends of mine. I played the content. I hit max light level. I completed all the campaigns of Destiny 1 and 2. I did the raids of Destiny 1 as well. I'm not like a hardcore Destiny player, but I played Destiny 1 and 2 and I beat the content. Okay, so I have some background on this from Destiny 2. Destiny was like the first MMO I ever played, and same for a lot of my friends as well. And I'm saying MMO because the developers in their article specifically say MMO. So I'm just going to use the terminology they used. If they want to call themselves an MMO, they are going to be compared to other MMOs. And in this press conference, they talked about the future of Destiny 2, what they've got coming up, and some of it was really exciting. I'm sat there watching this press conference like, oh my god, I'm jumping in. They've got rid of Activision. They can do what they want. They can do what they need to do. They can have their vision for the game. They're not going to be making a Destiny 3. They're going to be filling Destiny 2 with all this new content. I'm like, oh my god, yes. This story captivated the hell out of me when I first played Destiny 1. I loved it. It just wasn't enough of it there. And I was so ready for more of that. I was so ready to find out what the hell is going on with the darkness. And what I actually found was them saying, come back to Destiny 2. But if you don't come back by September, you won't be coming back. I can't go back down before December. For September. I'll explain what I mean in a minute, but I'll come back to that. And I can't go back before September because I just have a lot of games to play right now. There's a lot of games coming out and I want to play them, and I'm not going to put them on hold and miss out opportunities or potentially get spoiled for a game that is going to treat me like this. So what is happening in September when the Beyond the Light expansion hits? They are going to be doing a few things. Now I'm going to load up here their article. So if we just go ahead and hit that. This is their article. This is them. This is what they've written. Okay. They have a TLDR, which is really good. Nice short source, but it doesn't have all the information. And then it has what they're going to do and why they're going to do it and all this lot. Now, it's really good. I would say go and give it a read, or at least listen to some videos that are going to tell you exactly what's going on. But there's only a few parts of this I really want. I'm going to skip over all the new content stuff. New content's coming. It looks really good, by the way. Here you go. There's some of the images. But they go over things that are concerning to me, and it is the content vault. What they are doing is they are removing content, a lot of content from the game and replacing it with other stuff. And they're cycling it through, so it'll be brought back in and taken out and brought back in and taken out like that. And their main reason is to save space. One of the other reasons is because they're saying players don't play it. They're saying the install size is too big, having to go through and bug fix all this stuff, because when they develop for new stuff, they have to go and check the old stuff just to make sure it works properly. And their reasoning for it makes sense. What they're removing does not. I play Final Fantasy XIV. That game has never removed major content for the game, and it most certainly hasn't removed campaign content. And that's the thing I'm annoyed most. So we have Destiny's Content Vault preview, right? This is what they're adding and what they're removing. What they are adding is Destiny 1 stuff, which is great. Having Destiny 2 have a load of Destiny 1 stuff and Destiny 2 stuff, have the raids from Destiny 1, they're going to add in Vault of Glass, so that's fantastic. They're going to add some strikes in, I believe. That's awesome. Fantastic. Absolutely spot on. That is the sort of dedication to a franchise that we need in the gaming space. What they're removing, some of it makes sense and a lot of it doesn't. And to me, it has completely... I have no regard to go back to Destiny 2 now. So, what they've done is they're removing a bunch of planets. And I'm just going to quickly see if I can find which planets they're removing. Here you go. Right. So they're removing... Where is it? I've lost it. Here you go. Right, they're removing, on September 22nd, 2020, they are removing Io, Titan, Mercury, Mars, Leviathan will be cycled out and no longer be accessible. Okay, that's not a problem. I don't want running around those planets or the ships or whatever. That's okay. I'm going to miss them, but they'll come back. That's fair. That's fine. This includes all PvE activities, strikes, raids. Okay, getting a little bit dodgy now. That old content's getting fair enough. I didn't play anyway. Whatever. Let's carry on. They can remove the strikes and raids. Okay, fair enough. Including campaigns. What the fuck? As a new player, as a returning player, how are you meant to play a game when a chunk of the story of the game is gone? Like, for me, as a returning player or a new player, I jump back into Destiny 2, I start playing the story, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planet/areas missions are just gone? Well, how in God's name do you expect me to know what the fuck is going on? This is insane. You are going to confuse and upset returning players and new players because you're removing content. And you know what? 6 months to a year down the line, if they do this again, what are they going to do? Are they going to take out more content and put this back in? Well, that's all well and good. Now I know what's going on in these sections that were removed. But the new content you're removing, well, new players and, again, returning players are going to be confused again. Not going to know what's going on. Chunks of the story missing. This is already a game where to get the actual lore of the game, you have to go to an external website. Bungie, I understand you're concerned about how to maintain this game properly. It is a very valid concern. But removing campaign story content is not the way to do it. What you're doing is you've got a blanket and you're just covering over all this content, and that's not the way to do it. The way to do it, in my opinion, bear in mind I am not a game developer, is you go through this content and you pick and choose. You pick and you choose. And you include the campaign missions and the cutscenes. Because for a new and returning player, this is vital. Final Fantasy XIV has 300 to 400 hours of story content. It is all incredibly important if you want to follow the lore of the game. Okay, not quite true. Most of it is incredibly important if you want to follow the story campaign. If they went and removed Heaven's Ward, which is the second expansion of that MMO from the game, as a blanket, it's too big, we're going to remove it, right? Like they've done here, some of the story will make no freaking sense at all. What you could do is you could go in and keep all the story content, but remove the strikes and the raids and all this lot. the voice acting, some of the areas that are not needed, small, make the map sizes smaller, more concise, that kind of thing. You could do that to save space. And you don't have to just stick it to these planets. You could go over and you could go to some of the areas and you could make them a little bit more concise. And that would still do the same job. And then we get on to the second point. You have said that you want to be labeled as an MMO. Okay? So here, where I find it, they say this: our ambition for Destiny 2 is to be the best action MMO in the world. And that means being far more agile and nimble than we are today. But the simple fact is that our game size and complexity prevents us from improving Destiny 2 as we and you would like. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I do not know of an MMO that has ever done this before. They have, and we're going to take Final Fantasy 14 because that's the game I have most experience with. Again, we're going to take this as an example, but they have, old MMOs have taken the old content and made it relevant. Final Fantasy has made it relevant. Now, the way they've done this is they have incentivized players to go back and do it. They say here, where is it? Okay. The 150 gigabyte, which is the size of the game, includes a lot of content that isn't relevant anymore. Fair enough. And can't remain relevant. Wrong. Final Fantasy's first 2 raids are story raids. Right? They are story focused. They are incredibly important to the end of the base game to Final Fantasy 14. It is also the worst raid content, if you can even call it raid content, because it barely is. It's dreadful. It is the worst raid content I have ever played in Destiny 2 or Final Fantasy. In fact, it's some of the worst dungeon content I've played because of how long it takes. Okay? It's dreadful. For those who haven't played it, they are both abysmal. You know what they did to make sure that these are story-focused raids? You have to play them to beat the story. You have to play them to compress to beat the game. So everyone, and they are so bad that everyone who has already beat them will never go back to beat them. Okay? You know what they did to make sure they're relevant and make sure everyone's playing? They incentivized the player. They made them relevant. That content was not relevant. And they didn't sit there and say it can't remain relevant. They made it relevant. They made it functional. They gave players rewards so large that players were like, yep, I'm going to do this because it gives me a whole freaking level when I'm near max. And other things like that. They made it relevant. As game designers, they fixed their problem. They didn't fix the problem, but they gave incentives so players were able to push through the problems. They made content that was not rewarding, and they made it rewarding. Okay? And that can't remain relevant is not an excuse. If you are making an MMO, the removing content from your game is not the answer. Okay? Especially campaign content. As we evolve the world and introduce new expansions, they will take center stage instead. Right, so you're saying that the new experiences will take center stage? Well, what about all the new players? Are they going to jump in? Imagine playing Final Fantasy, if you have, and jumping in at Stormblood, which is the second ever expansion, and missing out the first two, the base game and the first expansion. Now, you would, trust me, if you haven't played it, you would be lost. You would have no idea what's going on. Destiny 2's story is not simple. It's not simple. It's something you need to keep track of, and if you jump in halfway through, you're not going to have a clue who's going on. When people reference Cade, Cade's dead, by the way. Spoiler alert. Who the hell's Cade? Well, you're not going to know because we removed that content from the game. The Warminds campaigns represent 0.3 of all playtime in the seasons. In the season of the all time played in the season of the Worthy, and yet the Warmind expansion accounts for 5% of total install size. This is not a good statistic to use. This is a business statistic. This is very short-minded. You want to increase this number, not remove this number. This expansion accounts for 5% of the total install size, then make it worth 5% of the install size. Do not look at this statistic and go 0.3%, shit, that's bad, let's remove it. No. You then want to incentivize your players to go back and play that content. Okay, there's a lot of reward mechanics in Destiny 2. There's a lot of players in Destiny 2 who go hunting for engrams and for coloured gear and different looks and emblems and new ghosts, and use it. Make the content relevant. Make it repeatable. Make players go back and play. You should not be removing the 5% of total install size. You should be making the 0.3% relevant. I don't know a game that removes content. Destiny 2 for the longest time has been criticised and ridiculed for its lack of endgame content until recently. It is a game where you have 40 story missions, 54 adventures, 42 lost sectors, 17 strikes, 31 PvP maps, 12 one-off special event activities, 7 raids, 6 gambit areas, 3 dungeons, and many quests, patrols, public events, and of course thousands of rewards. They're removing almost all of these raids. In this article, they say they're removing 7, I believe. Five even, sorry. Heading to the content vault. There will be 3 raids playable this fall, including 1 set in the Deep Zone Crypts, 1 in Europa as part of the expansion. There'll be a new... Okay. I believe they have said somewhere in this that they are going to have... They're removing 5 raids from the game out of the 7. And then they're adding a few more raids in. I think they're bringing in a Destiny 1 raid as well. Vault of Glass. Final Fantasy has loads of raids. And there's loads of incentives to go back to all those raids. There's mounts and loot and drops and glamour. And they never had a reason to remove them. So, why? Just when your game is getting to the point where people are like, there's loads of content, you can do loads, there's raids, there's dungeons, there's strikes, there's PvP. And then you're like, yeah, I'm going to remove half of it. You've just spent 4 years making this game relevant in Endgame. And you're going to now remove that? It's crazy. This is not the way an MMO needs to progress forward. Your campaign content gets you to endgame. That should never be removed because you're gating off the new and returning players. Your endgame content keeps your game relevant. And it keeps it relevant by incentivizing players to focus and play all of it. I have a list as long as my arm of content that I want to go back to in Final Fantasy XIV because I never got to play it. I didn't play it on launch. You know why I want to go back to it? Mounts, glamour, looks, incentives, like boss fights, interesting design. That's why I want to go back and play it. And I'm not the only one. I have quite a few friends who want to come back and play it with me. That's why the Final Fantasy community, one of the reasons Final Fantasy community is so great. Destiny, Bungie, you need to rethink this because you've just lost a player. I was excited about returning to Destiny. I no longer am and I no longer will, unless this gets changed. This is not a good idea. This is not the way an MMO should be developed. If your game has fundamental problems with the size of the game, if it has fundamental problems with the way that bug testing is done, if it has fundamental issues with including more content to the game, there are issues that need to be fixed on the development side. Removing content is not the answer. I've been Will, thanks for listening to my rant, guys, and I'll be back very shortly with some PS4 coverage, so stay tuned. Cheers, bye.